So after Job had battled his disvirtuous friends, he lamented his tragedy, and rightfully so. My thoughts are drawn to the people who had died in his household, his children. Their deaths were tragic. Job then demanded an audience with the Lord, and the Lord appeared, almost half teasingly, asked Job to the effect, "Where were you when I put the universe together, when I created the world, when I set the stars in motion, when I gave the horse its strength?" And one can almost hear the jibe. Who is this darkening my plans with his ignorant words? Job's suffering was not insignificant. His grief, his loss, the death of his children was real. So suffering is one of the core questions that we have about life. Is God real? And if God is real, why does he not stop the suffering? And historically, suffering is our baseline. Human existence has been pretty chaotic. Conflict, murder, theft, rape, malice. And it's evident that things have improved drastically over the last 200,000 years. And even with that background, Job's suffering is painful to watch. Job's wife was indignant at his seeming passivity, and in her perception, his integrity, in inverted commas. The pain seems almost unimaginable. There's at least one consideration. Who's to say that suffering isn't instrumental in bringing about something better than we're able to conceive of? I hear those words echo. Who is this darkening my plans with these ignorant words? Although Job's perspective was real, we see in retrospect and from the outside God's goodness and his providence. There's a danger in, if we only see things from our perspective, we miss truly astonishing experiences, free will, beauty, gratitude, and love. I'm reminded of the wisest philosophers and people who are joyful through suffering. And I'm reminded of something I read. I think it was from but I've been unable to trace the quote. Psychoanalysis arrived at exactly the right point when humanity was sick with self-awareness. Some say the same thing about Jesus. In reading psychoanalysts and predominantly Freud, Fromm and Melanie Klein, though others as well, one gets the sense that developing maturity depends on increasing integration, often even traumatic experiences. And it's easy to avoid these experiences, or once experienced, to lose one's joy, one's zest for life, to become resentful, to curse God, and then to die. One thing Job has taught us is that trauma can bring wholeness, deeper intimacy, generosity, and ultimately deeper relationship with God. Job humbled himself after the Lord's response. Does the critic still want to dispute Shaddai? Let him who wants to correct God give an answer. Then Job replied to Adonai, I am too ashamed. I have nothing to say. So I suppose it's easy to ignore God's gifts of free will, of autonomy, especially when overwhelmed with suffering. Frankel's works come to mind. Even in suffering, we are truly free to interpret our experiences and to live out that conception. So as I read it, it seems Job's interaction with the Lord gave him some perspective. Free will, the anomaly that generates love, absorbs suffering, and gives generously. So Father, thank you for the many examples of those who have been patient, joyful, and generous in affliction.